Hi all, a new day and new stories from Ocean Story. Just listen to this story. My sister Caroline, now 48, has spent the last 2 decades reminding me that she is 10 years younger than her husband, Ethan, who was 55 when they met. Caroline believed that when she turned 40, Ethan would no longer be attractive to others, and young people in their 20s would not want to date men over 35. At the time, Ethan was 34 and Caroline was only a week away from her 24th birthday when they began their official relationship. Ethan, who had recently been named Senior Vice President, was married to 35-year-old Emma and had a preschool-aged daughter with her. He told Caroline that Emma had changed after the baby was born, becoming less active and more picky, which was the reason he had left for Caroline. Nevertheless, Emma was the first to file for divorce. Caroline felt anger as she claimed that she was the one who filed for divorce, but afterwards became the subject of public condemnation. For a while I sympathized with her as their relationship was criticized. It seemed that Caroline and Ethan created an image of the perfect couple, exaggerating the importance that being together for them meant being young and active, both individually and together. Ethan, he said, was indigent in his 20s and believed that his only accomplishment might be attractiveness enhanced by a few beers. He reasoned that in those days it was easier for someone with no connections to succeed, and after the divorce, before he even met Caroline, Ethan started his first business, which allowed him to begin making considerably more money. Caroline signed a prenuptial agreement, although she claimed it would never be used. Caroline often laughed at Emma's comment that there would always be younger women, assuring her that Ethan considered the 10-year age difference significant and that she was the perfect combination of youth and ability to relate to him on a level that was accessible even to his daughter. Caroline also claimed that Emma was aging much faster than Ethan, suggesting that she might be mistaken for their daughter's grandmother. However, this confidence Caroline had that Ethan would always see her as young disappeared a few years ago. Becoming more withdrawn and unhappy, Caroline changed her behavior, although Ethan paid no attention to her whims. However, shortly before the holidays, after an argument caused by her hand-holding manners that annoyed Ethan, she left the house. She then learned that Ethan was living with a 24-year-old assistant, hired with no experience, even though their 3 children missed their father. Caroline felt she didn't deserve to be treated this way, despite never denying Ethan intimacy. Eventually, Ethan filed for divorce. When Caroline came to me, unable to hold back tears, she began to talk about how she thought Ethan would soon realize that his young companion only saw him as an old man. I, not hiding my irritation, remarked, "What did you expect, sister?" My patience was wearing thin after years of her saying that critics of the age difference were just jealous and that Ethan would always consider her his trophy. I also pointed out that a 10-year age difference is only the starting point in the trophy wife concept. Caroline took umbrage, saying that she was still the youngest partner Ethan could ever hope for and that her virtues would keep him coming back. To my skeptical response, she burst out, "Are you calling me old?" I tried to explain that in leaving for a younger woman, Ethan is acting out a familiar script and that each of his new partners is convinced of her uniqueness, despite the obvious pattern of behavior. There are an infinite number of young men willing to tie their lives to a wealthy partner for a more comfortable existence. Unfortunately, Caroline realized her type of partner too late, deluding herself into hoping for a long-term relationship with Ethan, who apparently has no trouble updating his arsenal every 20 years. I assumed that Ethan would continue to enjoy life with new partners until he was very old, at which point he might drop all pretense and move on to more overt forms of seeking company, not caring about maintaining the illusion of a family relationship. Ethan shared his observations with Caroline about how Emma had changed after the baby was born. He described her as overly critical and nagging, which he said had made their life together much more difficult. Caroline, taking in those words, came to believe that she now understood Ethan's reasons for breaking things off with his first wife. "Your words don't make you a fool. What you expressed shows a deep understanding of the situation." She overlooked the ancient wisdom that says if he is capable of cheating for you, he can cheat for you. She should have realized that such a day would inevitably come. Next story. Recently, my parents introduced a new rule. Dinner is only available after an hour and a half of violin practice. This decision was made after they noticed my infrequent violin practice, usually limited to only 30 minutes. As a teenager, I have an extreme aversion to playing the violin. I have been advised to find songs of my liking and play them, but this has only increased my aversion to the instrument. Despite the fact that I can't call myself lazy and even excel in my studies and sports, about a week ago, I decided to stop practicing the violin and give up dining out. My parents didn't expect me to make such a choice and became even angrier, depriving me of my favorite hobbies, including reading and creating. They even took away my soft toys, which I still feel attached to, and restricted my access to clothes, leaving me with only one basic set and a school uniform. Against all odds, I continued to refuse to play the violin. Discussing the situation with my friends, I was advised to simply comply with my parents' demands. However, they consider me a fool for my refusal. I am Asian, but that doesn't make me any less rational. Deprivation of food as punishment for wanting to give up an additional activity that is no longer of interest is an extremely dangerous method on the part of parents. In such cases, it is advisable to contact Child Protective Services (CPS), make them aware of food deprivation, and consult with a trusted adult at the school to explain the situation in detail. Many fear the possible repercussions of seeking help, thinking that if CPS begins an investigation, parents will temporarily change their behavior, but the situation will return to the way it was once the service leaves. From my own experience living in an Asian family, I understand these fears and know that many tolerate until they can become independent and leave home. Going back to the problem with playing the violin, the imposition of this activity has led to a complete loss of interest. Parents must realize that they cannot force their children to love a certain instrument or sport. Their role is to provide opportunities for music, sports, dance, and so on, and to support the child if he or she decides to go in a particular direction. Coercion can only kill any interest in an activity, making it an unbearable ordeal. Music and any other hobbies should be a personal choice and an object of love, not a cause of suffering. I am truly sorry that you had to face this treatment. Now I want to tell a different story. At the age of 28, I am of an older age compared to my sister who is 25 years old. Both of us are married. My spouse is 29 years old and my sister's husband is 28. My sister and her chosen one got married while I was still pursuing my college education. It was during that period that I met my future husband, with whom I later attended my sister's wedding. My sister prefers the comforts of home, while her spouse is active in finance. I, in turn, mentioned that I met my husband in college. Today, he is a successful lawyer, and I am a forensic scientist specializing in criminal cases. This work provides my husband and I with a stable financial situation. At the same time, I recognize that my sister faces some challenges, especially in these times. Recently, she approached me with a request to take care of her children for one night so that she could have a romantic date with her husband. I agreed without hesitation, as my husband and I have taken on the role of caring guardians for our nieces many times before. They are 3 beautiful girls, 2 of them are twins of preschool age, and the third is a teenager. We have even set up a special room with a guest bed for them and are always happy to be able to spend time in their company. Despite this, my husband and I have not yet come to a final decision about having children of our own. Nevertheless, these girls hold a special place in our hearts and will probably be the deciding factor in this matter. When my sister arrived to keep the babies, she entered the house for a short time. My husband took the little ones into the kitchen for a snack, and my sister, pressing me for conversation, sat down with me. During the conversation, she shared that the upcoming evening for her and her husband was supposed to be an attempt to rekindle a former passion. However, she said her spouse had changed a lot lately. He had become inattentive, rude, and mean, a far cry from the man she had married. My sister opened up to me about her thoughts of divorce, but felt stumped by her lack of a job, skills, and college degree, as well as caring for her 3 children. I expressed my sympathy and hoped that she would be able to find a way out of her situation with her spouse. However, she was skeptical about the possibility of improving their relationship. In response, I assured her that if a divorce was necessary, she need not worry about the children, as my husband and I were ready to offer our help. This provoked a strong reaction from her. She expressed concern about the financial costs of supporting the children, doubting her ability to provide for them through her low-paid job. I tried to reassure her not to worry about the financial side of childcare, emphasizing that the situation would improve next year when the twins went to school. I explained that I could help with their transportation due to my flexible work schedule. My sister seemed resigned to this and left without further comment. However, the next day I received a series of angry messages from her in which she unleashed a wave of recriminations on me, calling me a selfish, spoiled, and horrible sister for refusing to offer financial assistance despite not having children of my own and my husband and I having good jobs. I reminded her of my willingness to support her children and expressed the idea that my money was not for uncontrolled distribution. I emphasized that I needed to discuss any decisions regarding financial matters with my husband. She responded even more strongly, claiming that I was acting rashly and selfishly. Her words were filled with resentment and frustration, which made me wonder if there really was hope for help hidden in her resentment-filled remarks. In this situation, no one has an unconditional right to your funds, especially since you are already providing significant support by caring for the children pro bono. It would be worth advising your sister that further help is only possible after she admits her mistakes and sincerely apologizes for calling you selfish and self-centered for offering care for her children, which she herself chose to do by going on a date. It's surprising to hear her accuse you of wanting to help and offering to pick up her kids from school, even though it's not part of your direct responsibilities. Her demands for financial support seem unrealistic, as if you are expected to take responsibility for her choice to remain a housewife. It is important to remain alert to her possible attempts to make herself comfortable at your expense, especially if this entails additional inconveniences, such as having all 3 girls in the same room. This may encourage her to do more to improve her situation, including through support from her husband, who works in the financial field and should logically be able to provide for the family and pay child support. Providing her with money could set a precedent for her demands to continue to grow without end. Your sister has already taken advantage of your hospitality and now seems to expect you to make even more concessions. It's important to set boundaries and enforce them clearly so that the help you provide is healthy and doesn't lead to additional conflict or unreasonable expectations. My next story. I, a 30-year-old man, am dating my fiancée Shelly, who is 26 years old. Since the beginning of our relationship, Shelly has openly shared her passion for Korean music with me. Although I wasn't particularly enthusiastic about it, I always enjoyed listening to her talk about her favorite songs and artists. Over time, however, I realized that by Korean music, Shelly was referring mainly to the work of one singer, Kai. When we started living together last year, I discovered that her fascination was more like an obsession. Shelly would spend hours immersed in looking at his photos, interacting in fan communities, and listening to his music. Honestly, it started to put me off, but I realize everyone is entitled to their own preferences. Last summer, when my sister announced her imminent wedding, we rejoiced at the news. My sister set the date of the celebration for Friday, January 12, and we immediately confirmed our attendance. However, in December, Shelly gave me some unexpected news. She said she would not be able to attend my sister's wedding. Upon learning the reason, I assumed that Kai was scheduled to perform or meet with fans at that time. However, the reality was even more surprising. Shelly was planning to attend a fan-organized party in South Korea to celebrate Kai's birthday, which is on January 14. This date coincided with the current day in South Korea. I expressed my bewilderment at her decision given several factors: her lack of Korean language skills except for a few learned words, her limited financial resources since most of her expenses are covered by my earnings, and her choice to attend a pop star's birthday party instead of participating in a meaningful family event. Despite my doubts, Shelly was unwavering in her intention to attend the event. Even though it resulted in her leaving a few days before my birthday, she asked me to inform my sister of her alleged illness as the reason for her absence from the wedding. I, not wanting to divulge the real reason for her departure, agreed. My sister's wedding went great, but Shelly's absence raised questions. I decided to be honest and told her about her trip to South Korea. My sister, though a little upset, tried not to let it dampen her celebration. However, after learning the truth, she wrote to Shelly expressing her disappointment and noting that she could have saved on expenses if she had known about Shelly's absence in advance. My sister also wrote to me, expressing her displeasure that I had revealed the truth. I was faced with the question of whether my decision to be honest about the reasons for Shelly's absence was the right thing to do, because it had led to misunderstandings in the family. In answer to your question, she deliberately skipped your sister's wedding. She understands the consequences of her actions and realizes she was wrong to ask you to lie about her motives. Many people have already questioned the meaning behind such decisions. However, it's more important to question the reasoning behind your choice in partners, given her obsession that repulses you and the fact that she's spending your joint funds on a trip to worship a celebrity likely not even aware of her existence. The problem isn't that you told the truth about her absence from the wedding. The problem is that she chose to go away and participate in a celebrity's birthday party, putting that above family values. It's also worth noting that your sister is not only upset about Shelley's absence, but also about the avoidable spending. Kai's obsession with her becomes a pivotal point in your relationship, forcing you to think about the future. You're faced with a choice that must be made consciously. If you're not 100% sure of your decision to continue the relationship, it's worth thinking it through carefully. She's funding her passion with money you earn, which puts you in a tricky position. Perhaps you'd rather invest that money in a future together or something more practical instead of supporting her passion. There is a third participant in your relationship, an idealized image of Kai, which complicates things. You have to deal with a partner whose maturity for a relationship is questionable, and this can lead to further problems. A story that really surprised me. There has been a significant change in our family. I am 35 years old and my spouse, with whom we have been married for 10 years, recently made the decision to become vegan. This choice was driven by ethical considerations, which I have respectfully accepted. We have 2 children, a teenager and a toddler who attends kindergarten. As a homemaker, my wife has always emphasized family meals. Working for a technology company takes up most of my time, so I have a very busy schedule. About a month ago, after my wife converted to veganism, we agreed that the kids and I would continue with our regular diet. She agreed to cook meat dishes for us, since the kids like them and have shown little interest in vegetables and similar foods. However, 2 days ago, the situation changed. My wife informed me that she could no longer participate in the meat dishes. She shared that it had become unbearable for her to choose and cook meat, as it went against her vegan beliefs. She now intends to cook only vegan meals for the whole family. If we want meat dishes, however, I'll have to take over cooking them. This innovation has caused me deep frustration, especially in light of my lack of free time due to an ambitious project my company is working on. We got into an argument about it, during which my wife accused me of indifference and lack of understanding. Our children are now staying with my parents and will not return home until the end of the month. I am concerned about how they will take this change and would not want them to face this change. Your frustration about family eating habits and the division of household chores is evident. Surprise is expressed about the children's food preferences, especially when it comes to vegetables. An alternative option to cooking chicken breast is suggested, emphasizing the convenience and time savings that can be achieved by using a multi-cooker or ordering takeaway meals. This allows children to have more freedom in choosing their meals and avoid unnecessary family food conflicts. Also discuss the redistribution of household tasks. Spouses can swap responsibilities, where one will take over cooking while the other focuses on other aspects of the household. This might include cooking meat dishes while the other family member can do the cleaning or housekeeping. Roles in the household can be renegotiated, allowing both spouses to contribute to the family budget, as well as sharing responsibilities for home maintenance and cooking. You also broach the topic of dietary choices and family understanding about food preferences. You express frustration over your spouse changing dietary guidelines without prior discussion and agreement, especially given the long period of support and compromise. It is important to find a common solution that takes into account the preferences and needs of all family members while maintaining harmony and mutual understanding in the relationship.